Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. I'm Cooper Melder. Alongside me is Tristan Harlan. This is the only surprise we have for today that I know of.
I promise there's no surprises.
That is me opening the show. Tristan, how are you doing today, bud?
I'm doing about as good as the $2 steak, my friend.
Okay, not too bad, not too bad. But, you know, this past weekend was homecoming, and your Arkansas State Red Wolves are 1-0 in conference play. Everything that has led up to this week, nothing has mattered except this past Saturday, 1-0 in conference, beat South Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, it was an electric crowd, electric atmosphere in Centennial Bank Stadium, and I really think that the Red Wolves really came to show who they were in the conference. And, you know, coming off some minor setbacks this year that they've experienced on the road, they came back home and, you know, they were able to get the win in the win column.
Yes, it was a very good game by the Red Wolves. And Tristan, if you would have told me last week that Arkansas State would only score one touchdown, I would think, okay, we're going to get destroyed. But actually, it only took us scoring one touchdown the entire game to win. And it was honestly one of those games that we had a lot of opportunities where we could have came away with a lot more points but had to settle with 3.
Right, and the thing is this defense, they really showed true to their character what they wanted to do. Justin Parks got his first interception of his career at Arkansas State, and you know, it's kind of a true testimony about what Justin Parks means to this A-State defense and what the defense has gone through in the past 3 years with Butch Jones at the helm at the head coach position. But, I mean, what more can you say except how dynamic the crowd played into it, too? I mean, we've talked on the show countless amounts of times about the fans need to show up, the students need to show up, and they've been showing up very well this season. And honestly, they've kind of been the difference in Centennial Bank Stadium this year.
It really has been. I mean, they've been really rallying behind this team, and it's something we haven't been able to see these past couple years just due to the poor play from the Red Wolves. I mean, winning 2 games, then only winning 3, and then last year a shaky start, and then we got going, ended up going to a bowl game. But now it feels like the crowds finally, they're buying in. They're getting over, okay, Butch Jones, like him or not, he's our head coach. And they're really seeing this team, they have something special. Now, me and Tristan may have overreacted a little bit these past couple weeks. Losing to Michigan was an okay reaction. And then we kind of really hit hard on this team after getting beat by Iowa State. But I think as this year goes on, Iowa State, they're going to be a good team. And I feel like, you know, it was just a bad matchup for the Red Wolves.
Right, and look, we're not perfect. We've said things on the show that kind of were a stretch and a fabrication of the truth. But regardless of that, what matters now is conference play in the Sun Belt Conference, and that the Red Wolves are 1-0. They have a big-time test coming up next week, which we'll get into later against the Texas State Bobcats. But really, this team not only has shown who they want to be as an identity, but I feel like Butch Jones is finally comfortable in the head coach position at Arkansas State. And what I mean by that is not that, you know, of course he's had questionable calls here and there, and he's had questionable moments as the Red Wolves' top guy, but I mean, this team finally looks comfortable. They finally look like they know how they want to execute a game plan. Jalen Rayner, you know, I've been on record on this show saying that he's, you know, not been playing well to this point of the season versus how he played last season. In this game, he looked like Jalen Rayner of old. I mean, 30 for 39, 345 yards, and throwing one touchdown that Cooper mentioned, the only offensive touchdown the Red Bulls had this past Saturday. And the thing is I want people to understand this about Rayner, is that you could go back and you could watch some of the highlights for this game, and Rayner is planting his feet. He is absolutely looking where he wants to throw. His eyes aren't 25 yards past Courtney Jackson or 25 yards past Corey Rucker. He's looking on his target, and he's actually executing on where he wants the ball to go.
Yeah, and he could have had 2 touchdown passes. There was a pass in the second quarter to Manny Stevenson. Just dropped. He had it.
It was Corey Rucker.
No, it was Manny Stevenson in the end zone. The reason I remember this play, because I was on the sideline filming, ball followed to perfection. I mean, I followed that ball straight. I mean, you see the ball in his hand. He's coming down. It hits his hand, incomplete. Can't use the beautiful shot. I was mad because there is a highlight reel. But, man, all I got to say, it was a great shot. But
Right.
it was a game where the red zone offense kind of struggled, but the defense came away big when they needed to. It's like the games we've won, if you look at Tulsa and you look at South Alabama, we always get interceptions when they're driving or forced turnovers in the end zone. I mean, you're seeing it now, pass for 345 yards, and I feel like we're finding our true identity. No turnovers, that was the difference in this game. But back to what I was saying, we're forcing turnovers when our backs are against the wall. They're going downfield, they're driving downfield, and then we come away with that big interception from Parks, or Parks punches a fumble and it goes out in the end zone, or we get another interception in the end zone. Our defense has really been stepping up against teams that are more our style. Like, what I mean by that is Tulsa, Sunbelt Conference, not Michigan, Iowa State.
Right, and you kind of brought up what I wanted to bring up, is that this is the first game that the Red Wolves have looked evenly matched up to their opponent. I mean, you saw the stats against South Alabama, which there was some stats that I wanted to point out that was absolutely kind of not mind-blowing, but it was really interesting to see. But the time of possession, I mean, there was like a 1 minute difference, and I love to see that, because not only does that show that the Red Wolves are driving down the field efficiently, but it shows that, yes, while they're allowing 30 minutes, they're also having the ball for 29, and they're having 345 passing yards and only 66 rush yards, which could be fixed, but you got to pick and choose your battles in that scenario, because, I mean, yes, we talked about Cross, but losing a guy like Cedric Hawkins in the running back room is detrimental to the offense. But I definitely love how the Red Wolves have been able to move the ball at home.
Yes, and, we're going to get into this later, but this next game against Texas State, it's going to be, I feel like, their first real true test and how the rest of the season is going to go, because it's only week 1 of conference play, and there's so much left to play.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about another dynamic person on the Red Wolves offense when we come back. You guys watch Red Wolf Roundtable. Where else? Put on ASU-TV. Stick around.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. Getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to West Side football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU TV. And now, Cooper, it's time to grab your guitar, because it's time to talk about a rock star.
Yes, Corey Rucker, I mean, it was a masterclass game from him. He went off. It was one of those, when in doubt, just throw the ball to Corey. I mean, he had a game. He didn't have a touchdown, but he did have a 51-yard bomb, and really, he was a dynamic point in the offense and getting them downfield and setting them up for really those field goals they got throughout the game.
Right. I mean, Corey Rucker Rucker having 8 catches, 172 yards. This has kind of been the game we've been waiting to see from Rockstar Ruck. I mean, of course, again, that's another player that we've been talking about the show, really hammering home on about, hey, he's got to step it up. He's got to step up his production numbers. But, I mean, eight catches for 172 yards is great. But I want to see him do it again against Texas State. I want to see him do it again later on there in the season. Yes, one game is great, and he was a pivotal point of why they beat South Al. But I want to see this more from Corey Rucker because, I mean, I've got to look at the stat again, but at one point I think he was like one of the top receivers in the nation with reception yards for this past week. But, I mean, if he can do it this past week, why can't he do it this week? I mean, I love it. I love Rucker's production in this offense, but I got to see it more consistently.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him really go off against UCA, and that was a big time. I mean, the catch. But with Corey Rucker, with this offense, I feel like Rayner, the reason he had this big game was because he's really making Rucker that true wide receiver one. Yes, it's good to have games where, you're spacing it out, everyone has 4 or 5 catches, but you need to have that guy you can rely on, who you can say, okay, I can target him 10, 12 times a game, and I can guarantee you he'll come down with 9 of them and get at least over 100 yards. If we do that against Texas State, then we're going to see a lot more wins, or just throughout the season, just a lot more wins. We just need Rayner to say, all right, Rucker, you're my number one go-to guy. You're wide receiver one. And then Courtney Jackson, you need to really step up and be that big wide receiver number 2, because we were all high and mighty on Courtney Jackson, but we haven't really been talking about him. I mean, I haven't really heard his names at the past couple games, and that's a player we really need to step up, because if your wide receiver one and Rucker isn't really working, we need to be able to go to our wide receiver 2.
Right, and I mean, you brought up what I was going to bring up, and I'm glad you did, because, I mean, looking at Corey Rucker this season, of course, the only other game he had over 100 receiving yards at was against Central Arkansas when he had 9 catches for 179 yards. But the craziest thing about this whole shebang is that Corey Rucker has only gotten 2 receiving touchdowns this year. Now, Rayner tried to find him a lot this past game against South Alabama, but for whatever reason, Rucker just couldn't hang on to the ball, or it was overthrown, or he just couldn't find the mark. But to what Cooper was saying, and I want to piggyback off that, is that Rucker being the receiver one, of course, but what about guys like Reagan Ely and Adam Jones who, against these bigger opponents like Michigan and Iowa State, were making some dynamic catches and opening up the offense more to where the tight ends like Manny Stevenson can really, add just a little bit of extra flavor. I mean, of course, the tight end has always been a position in the Butch Jones offense that has been one to kind of keep your eyes on. I mean, just look at a couple years ago when we were at Ohio State, Seydou Traore, who's playing at Mississippi State now. He had a tremendous grab on the sideline, and he was one of the best receivers in that offense. Of course, you still had Champ Fleming. James Blackman still couldn't find the mark, which, we've talked about James Blackman enough to have him have 15 minutes worth of fame. But I really love that we're now talking about the Red Wolves in a more positive light, not only just productively, but in the aspect of, okay, they know what it takes to win now. What can they do this week in San Marcos to get another win in the win column? Because the Sun Belt this year looks wide open for anybody to take control of.
Yeah, it really does, because James Madison, they're 0-1. They were predicted to win their side of the division. They got beat by ULM. And ULM, a team that I can't stand them. ULM's looking good. When's the last time anyone has ever said that? ULM's looking real good. I mean, Troy, they're 1-5. Southern Miss, they're 1-5. They're not doing good at all. The top teams that are really, gonna normally give us problems, they're not doing good. Old Dominion, they're on our schedule. They're not doing good. Georgia State, they're 0-1 conference play right now. So the Sun Belt's wide open for the Red Wolves. And when we go on, there's about 3 games. You have Texas State you need to win, Louisiana, the Cajuns you need to win, and then ULM you have to win. Those are 3 big games marked on the schedule that these might decide if the Red Wolves make it to the Sun Belt Conference Championship game or even host a Sun Belt Conference Championship game.
Right, and it's weird to say because usually we're talking about Louisiana being the best team in Louisiana in the Sun Belt, but now them and ULM are just right here with one another, and they're both 4-1. But, we have a schedule graphic, and, that's going to be where you point out the most games. But coming off a win against South Al, Texas State, while it's not an absolute must-win per se, it's still going to be kind of nice to beat them after you put 70-something up on them last season. And you're seeing the graphic I was referring to now. The calendar tracker, as I like to call it. 2 wins, 3 wins, 2 losses. But, you're looking at it. October 12th, October 19th. Those are 2 games that are very winnable. Of course, Texas State's going to give you issues just because of how dynamic that offense is. But I don't know. I like different games on here, but we're going to take another short break, and when we come back, we're going to really dive into the Texas State matchup and how the Red Wolves can take a victory here. Stick around.
When you say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option.
ASU-TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU-TV News, Westside Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU-TV today.
Red Wolf Radio is a student-led organization at Arkansas State University wanting to hear your takes on pop culture, music, the news, and college life. Just about anything you can think of. Located in the Education and Communications building on campus, we are always looking for more volunteers. So if you're an Arkansas State University student, no matter the major, and this is something that interests you, shoot us an email at redwolfradio@astate.edu. That's redwolfradio@astate.edu. Let them hear you howl.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV, and now we're going to really get into the Texas State matchup. Now, they do travel to Texas State, and we're talking, it's almost a must-win, but it's not just because it's early in conference play, but it's going to be the true test on what the Red Wolves are going to do and a true test to our defense because we've been a bad rush defense. We can't stop the run, but Texas State, that's not their offense. They want to air it out. They want to throw the ball deep. Jordan McLeod, he's second in the Sun Belt in passing yards, first in passing touchdowns with 15. It's going to be a test to our secondary, and if our linebackers and D-line can really force pressure in the backfield and get to them.
Yeah, and that's how I wanted to come about this matchup because, let's be real with ourselves here. Jordan McLeod, who was at James Madison last season, is going to be the guy that's going to try to throw it 30 to 40 times a contest. But you bring over that right outside linebacker like Char, and you really send him on the inside on a blitz. Who's to say Tim Hardiman isn't busying up that offensive lineman to where Char can slip right in and get a sack, stop the run in the backfield for a tackle for loss? Or, hey, if he gets too much pressure and he throws a bad ball, Trevion Thomas, Justin Parks, those guys right there are some of the best guys on defense in the Sun Belt. Even Justin Hodges, while we haven't said his name a lot for interceptions, he's still been consistent on that defensive side of the ball. Because let's be real, this is a hard-hitting Red Wolf defense, and I really, truly think that you add more pressure to McLeod, and you kind of back off your DBs a little bit to really get under these routes, you were looking at maybe 3, 4, even 5 interceptions for your defense that really are going to set Rayner and the rest of the offense up for a lot of points because, I mean, they've said it before. The defense has got to stop, or the offense has got to stop leaning on the defense, and the offense has got to step it up so when they get inside the red zone, they're not kicking field goals every single time. They're actually getting inside the end zone, whether they're in the red zone or just on every single drive that self.
Yeah, and we're going to need to have a big game, in my opinion, from Justin Parks. I mean, he's been really the captain of this defense, in my opinion. He's been all over the field. If you've gone to any of the home games, you hear his name constantly. He's making the big plays, getting the big hits. So for the Red Wolves to really succeed on defense this week, they're going to really need to rally behind Justin Parks, in my opinion, because Texas State, they do draw a good crowd every home game. Their fans really rally behind them. You kind of look at their fan base and it's like, okay, I kind of wish we can have that home field advantage. It's getting better here, but they really bring in the fans to their stadium. So that place is going to be rocking Saturday.
Right, and one aspect of concern I want to go ahead and throw out there is that the running game. I mean, last season in Centennial Bank Stadium, Jaquez Cross had the game of a lifetime, where he found the end zone multiple times, and they ended up scoring 70 on the Texas State Bobcats. But hey, why not see the same thing in San Marcos? I mean, who's to say that they even went in the offseason preparing for not even this matchup, but just any matchup in the Sun Belt Conference, and they really, try to stop the run? Because, I mean, let me remind you that this Texas State team is also the same team that allowed a 35-point comeback against Sam Houston State in Houston, where the Texans play. I almost called it Allegiant Stadium, but I think it's NRG Stadium now. But, I mean, you're seeing the head-to-heads right now. I mean, they're averaging about 16 more points. But the thing is that this team on paper looks better. But as Cooper has been known to say on this show, don't ever count out the Red Wolves.
Don't ever count out the Red Wolves. And you're seeing, Arkansas State's giving up 30 points per game. They're giving up about 440 yards on defense. But I feel like those numbers got boosted up, especially on the defensive side when we did travel to Ann Arbor and then when we played Iowa State, because Iowa State dropped 50 on us. Michigan, they ran the ball. They racked up a ton of yardage. So you have to take those numbers with a grain of salt. They don't tell the full story. The only story they really fully sell on is our offense, just because we haven't been able to succeed well in the red zone. We've been settling for field goals, not too many touchdowns. But like Tristan said, last year when we played them, we dropped 77 points on them. Why not do it again? But it's going to be a whole new different team. We also took out their starting quarterback. If I do remember, I think he broke his leg that game. If I'm not mistaken, we took out TJ Finley, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
That was a big factor, but that was due to the fact we were able to get to the quarterback pressure. Now, I'm not saying let's hurt their starting quarterback. I do not want any injuries on any side of the ball, clean game, but you have to get to the quarterback.
Right, and I mean, And then here's another thing, okay? And now that it's all hitting my mind, it's kind of firing me up a little bit. But Arkansas State, guys, if you're watching this, don't win it for you guys. Win it for the entire Sun Belt, because not only is this a team that blew a 35-point lead against Sam Houston State in NRG Stadium, but this is also the same team that tried to leave the Sun Belt. I mean, they were going to leave the Sun Belt right until the final nail in the coffin, and the deal fell through. So, I mean, look. If they want to leave the Sun Belt, go get more money, sure. Kelly Danfus can take selfie with the new commissioner of the Mountain West. I don't care. But I just really think that this team needs to have that kind of fire from the rest of the Sun Belt, because not only does that make the Sun Belt look bad that one of the teams try to leave and it didn't work out, but they're probably thinking, hey, they're not like us. They're better. The Texas State's thinking that they're better than the rest of the Sun Belt Conference. Of course, they lost a couple games here and there, but why not the Red Wolves? I mean, you know, the why not question has been a big staple for me the past 3 years being on the show, and, you know, I fully believe it. The Red Wolves have the tools to beat this team. They have the tools to beat a lot of the teams on the remaining point of their schedule. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be a test to this team, whether they find that identity, because talk about the run game, Texas State has the second best run defense in the conference, and Arkansas State has the worst run defense in the conference. Of course, you take away some of the stats from the Michigan-Iowa State game, you probably have something different there, but I'm definitely intrigued is the better vernacular for that, to see where the Red Wolves can do and host to guard the Sun Belt, so to speak.
Yeah, and, you know, Texas State, they have a really good run defense, but if you've been watching us, that's not our identity this year. We've really figured out, okay, the run game's not really working like it was last year. It just doesn't have that same hit, that same, you know, go that we had last year. And we're really finding our stride with the passing game. But while we aren't running the ball, I still want to see our running backs get involved. Why not throw a little screen passes to Jaquez Cross or Zach Wallace? Because those are dynamic guys that, especially Jaquez Cross, I mean, we saw it when he played Texas State last year. If he gets an open space, that dude can move. He can make guys miss, and he can score easily. We've seen Zach Wallace in open space. He'll run you over. These are guys you have to incorporate in your offense. Yes, they're the running backs. You're supposed to hand the ball off to them, but that's not our style of play this year. Get them involved by passing it to them. Give them little hitch routes, maybe 3 yards, throw it to them, let them see what they can do in open field. Or, you know, throw a screenplay, give them some blockers, let those guys work. If they're not running the ball, still somehow incorporate them into our offense, because we are going to need them.
Right. Well, Cooper, real quick before we go to another break, and then we'll get into the rest of the Sun Belt Conference, but what's your score prediction for this game?
Score prediction, you know, last week I had the Red Wolves getting smoked because, like we're saying, we're down in the dumps after the Iowa State game. I think it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be a good one. 25-17 Red Wolves.
Okay, give me 38-28 Red Wolves.
Okay.
But we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a game day forecast and the rest of the Sun Belt Conference right here on Red Wolf Roundtable.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. Getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to Westside football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU TV. Now we got to dive into the Sun Belt Conference a little bit just to talk about what the rest of the conference has going on. But first, I want to talk about a game day forecast.
Yes.
Cooper, it's going to be a hot one in San Marcos.
It is going to be hot, hot, hot. If you're making that travel down to Texas, you don't bring any long sleeves. It's going to be 95, and, you know, there might be some wind, but it's just going to be kind of like your dog's breath, hot breath. It's just going to be hot.
Yeah, you're gonna need your SPF 1000 there, because if you're ginger like me, you're gonna burn like you bacon in the oven.
Yeah, Tristan, I was about to say, if you were there, you'd hat on, make sure you're lathered up with some
I'd be
sunscreen.
going to the full Peyton Burr outfit for soccer.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
But looking at the rest of the conference real quick, we just want to go over this because we have a little bit of unfortunate news for our game day picks. The file didn't save, probably my fault, and so we kind of lost the progress of where we were. So we're just going to do it like this for right now, and we'll come back with it when we figure out where we're at. So, Cooper, want to start with game number 1 on Thursday, Coastal Carolina at James Madison. Who you got?
Give me the turquoise chickens.
All righty. Give me James Madison. James Madison's going to have a comeback there. Old Dominion at Georgia State.
Georgia State, they're coming off a loss against Georgia Southern. They're down in the dumps. Give me ODU.
Interesting. I got Georgia State taking that one at home. And speaking of, I want to take a quick break to remind everybody that we've just found out that we are going to be going to Georgia State.
We are.
We're back on the road, baby.
Yeah, every year, Red Wolf Roundtable, we go on a big, game, on-site game. Normally it's like in Ohio State or Oklahoma. We're hoping for Michigan, but you know what? It's senior year. Let's go see some conference action down in Atlanta.
Hot Atlanta, baby. But moving forward, Southern Miss at ULM. And I'm going to go ahead and jump the gun there. I'm taking the Warhawks.
I mean, give me Southern Miss. You already know when it comes. I will predict ULM to lose every game. I don't care who they're playing. Give me Southern Miss.
Right, and sticking in the state of Louisiana here, Appalachian State taking on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns.
I think Louisiana's going to win, but I'm not going to take them just because I don't like them. So give me App State.
Well, good, because I wanted to take Louisiana there. But our final game, Marshall at Georgia Southern in Statesboro, Georgia.
We are.
You're going to take Marshall? Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Gata.
Okay.
And I can't explain what that means. You're just going to have to Google it on your own terms. But hopefully we figure out where our score pick 'em, what the score is, because I'm sure you're up a bunch and I'm still trying to fight for a playoff spot here. But, Cooper, I just cannot stress enough that this game against Texas State is going to be a good one. Hopefully the Red Wolves are going to win in San Marcos, and then they're going to go to Hattiesburg, take a win there, come back home and play Troy with a 3-0 conference record.
Yeah.
But, that's about all we got here for Red Wolf Roundtable this week. When we come back, because, of course, you're going to know what happened in the Texas State game and what's going to go forward in the Southern Miss game. Stick around to next week, guys. You've been watching Red Wolf Roundtable. Where else but on
ASU-TV.
See you guys.